Hey there, fellow readers. This is Rambling Collector here, and welcome to episode 2 of Let's Read. For this next episode, the subject of it, we will be reading the first chapter of In the Beginning by Stevie Jo, the first book of the Angel of Death series. Now, I don't know how many of you have actually seen the review for this already, but if you have, now you'll get to hear the first chapter. I hope you all are as excited for this as I am. And after this video is over, if you want to check out the first book for yourself afterwards, I will leave a link to it in the description down below, as well as a link to the author's personal YouTube channel as well. With that being said, let's get started. Chapter 1. Head in the Clouds. The kingdom of heaven was a divine place to exist in every way imaginable. The sky was so crystal and clear with that view. No mortal could ever dream of a view this magnificent, not even from the highest mountain peak. No airplane would ever be sophisticated enough to soar so high. The air was thin, and there were no sounds of wind or birds. All was peaceful and still. The sun's rays were particularly warm, and provided a tranquil feeling of hope to all souls fortunate enough to cross beyond the threshold of mortality and into the Pearl Gates. The Pearl Gates were sturdy golden structures, named for the glimmering mother-of-pearl slats that rested between the gold bars of the gate. In that moment, every soul stared in awe when their once mortal eyes gazed upon the gates for the very first time. And every soul saw something different upon their arrival to the gates. Whether it was one final farewell to their earthly life, or the flicker of a loved one lost before them, it was always something unique to that individual soul. Of course, that did not mean all things seen in the gates were of a positive nature. There were those who were not destined for the glory of eternity in heaven. There were those who tried to flee the cold hands of fate and sneak into heaven, but they were always detected. There was no way to avoid fate. The heavily armed soldier angels at the gates made certain of that. Known throughout heaven as defenders, these angels were part of the Holy Army. Their divine purpose was to protect heaven, the other angels, and the heavenly magic therein from potential foes. Such an army had hardly been needed at the dawn of time. However, fate had played a cruel joke on them all, and caused heaven to require intense protection. 2 defenders stood a never-ending watch over the Pearl Gates, ensuring only the souls with a heavenly mark were permitted within. These relentless soldiers stood like beacons of heaven, welcoming those worthy enough to feel the warmth of divine love. Their thick and glimmering gold armor was heavy, but the angels were strong and sturdy. Large white wings were always perched defensively on their shoulders, so they were ready for any threat. Each defender gained unique pieces of armor based on his past. The 2 at the Pearl Gates had none other than Mother of Pearl etched onto their breastplate in the design of a tree. The handle of their broadswords were shrouded in the same Mother of Pearl material. While most angels had swords, the defenders of the Pearl Gates were the only ones to carry them visibly at their side as a first line of defense. The fair-faced, blue-eyed angels stood stoically on each side of the double-wide gates to seek those who bore the heavenly mark. Such a mark was not placed on a mortal until their dying breath. It was the culmination of all their life's work, and whether it amounted to good or evil in the end. Heavenly marks were found on the back of a soul's neck, and remained there for eternity. The highly coveted marks were a brand in the shape of a small flowering tree, the tree of death. Pearl Gate defenders were so powerful in their ways of reading a soul that they did not need to look at the neck to know it was there. The warmth of the soul radiated with the symbolic life of the small tree, in spite of it being the tree of death. Mortal souls without the heavenly mark exuded a chill like the last frost of winter, sinking its claws into the back of spring one last time. Those accursed mortals were sent straight to the depths of hell to pay the price for their sins. Hundreds of thousands of souls had been turned away from the gates since the dawn of time. These particular defenders had been the only ones ever on duty. As a result, they knew every angel who flew beyond the gates. To that end, they knew which angels were permitted earthly access and which were not. A task they did not take lightly. Today, they proudly granted access to the kingdom to one of the highest-ranking angels in heaven, Hope. Hope was a short, slender angel with a blonde bob that was so bright it nearly resembled what the mortals called a halo. Angels did not have halos. Instead, they carried the light of grace with them, so they appeared to glow. Hope was the only one that seemingly proved otherwise. Her bright baby blues sparkled as she smiled at the two defenders. Her long, flowing red gown glittered with the dazzling light of the sun. She was always sure to have her large white wings spread wide wherever she went in heaven. For Hope, it was a status symbol. She needed everyone to know who she was, for she had secured the second highest rank in the kingdom of heaven. She wasn't quite Genesis, but she was so close. Hope was the wielder of fate. Well, she was still working on assuming the role in its entirety, but she was close enough to claim it. She had worked for 800 years, crawling and climbing through the ranks. She spent countless days on Earth, doing her due diligence to protect the mortals who so frequently got under her skin. Now, she was finally chosen. She finally made it. Yesterday was her last day as a guardian, and she had gone to Earth for one final goodbye. She was a romantic at heart and enjoyed reminiscing on her long years watching the very things created by heaven. It was amazing, and she was ready to rule it all. That is, after the daunting task of ensuring the fate of the three realms, heaven, earth, and hell. The pearl gates opened wide, and Hope flapped her white wings to make her way through heaven. She looked down on the cities of heaven as other angels bustled about with their tasks. The first city inside the gates was Nirvana. Known as the Learned City, Nirvana was where all mortal souls lived upon first entering heaven. It was there where souls learned their divine purpose. Some went on to be defenders, some shepherds or guardians, while others, still, were simply finished. Some souls had done enough in their mortal lives that their divine purpose was sufficiently served. Those blessed angels were sent straight to the eternal pool, where they could rest under the light of Genesis. Angels who were destined with a higher purpose went through special training to learn heavenly magic. There was quite a lot of magic in the world, and it was all fluid if it wasn't guarded carefully. Yet, only heavenly magic could perform the coveted gift of life. Only angels under Genesis were blessed to bring a soul back from the brink of death. It was a powerful gift to be used sparingly, for fear of the dire consequences. Although it was almost 700 years ago, Hope recalled the time when she had served in Nirvana, learning her craft. Those were simpler times. Her dreams were only wishes with a faint flicker of light at the end of the tunnel. She took pride in teaching in Nirvana so that other angels could turn their wishes to dreams. However, only the very blessed would see those dreams realized. Yes, it was common for powerful angels in heaven to come from such humble beginnings, although Hope did have quite a reputation for being anything but humble. Still, no one was surprised when fate called upon her to be the next wielder. She had done everything in heaven. She even lived in Utopia for a couple centuries as a lowly shepherd. Shepherds had the unrelenting task of caring for most of mortal life. They were the watchers of earth, always with one eye on their assigned mortals and the other eye on the enemy. When something went awry, guardians were called in to repair the issue and face off whatever evil of hell decided to rear its ugly head. Hope had excelled so greatly at shepherding that she was quickly moved to the City of Grace to join the ranks of the guardians. It hadn't been hard to move up, at least not for Hope. Her insistence to go to Earth and resolve all her issues and fight all her demons herself proved her courage and skill. It was at the great discouragement of many a defender, but she cared not. What was the point of having the power if she couldn't use it? Once she got to Grace, she earned her first ropes with gems. They had been blue like her eyes. The golden ropes draped delicately over the feathers of her wings, never limiting her ability to use such powerful weapons. The sapphires glittered with her every move, and she had loved it. They were part of her. The unadulterated rush of power she felt at her first gem ceremony was unrivaled. It was as though she was breathing the crystal air for the very first time. A rush so strong that it bored into her and flowed through her. Since that first ceremony, Hope plowed her way through many of the ranks of guardianship, but she missed that surge of power, that kick to her step that made her feel as though she could do anything. Oh, how she longed to feel it again. Then she was chosen for the wielder of fate. Now that was guaranteed to be a rush of power unlike any other. Being the wielder of fate meant having unlimited power and control over all things on earth and in heaven. The trouble was that no one could see their own fate, and Hope's was still undetermined at that moment. Thus, the associated gem ceremony was unplanned. It was the most frustrating thing she had ever experienced. How was she expected to perform her duties if the power was being withheld from her? Such a challenge was one of the many things Hope intended to alter once she was finally bonded with the Hand. That was another thing stalling her. This blasted bond. There was so much unnecessary emphasis on it, and frankly, Hope was sick of it. But she had to play the game if she wanted to win and be able to change the rules. Once she was successfully bonded, though, she would be transferred enough power to change all of heaven and take total control. Hope found it hard to believe none of her predecessors had been strong enough to do that very thing. Then again, heavenly magic had evolved with time. The 4 other wielders before her had sat with fate for thousands and thousands of years, until their magic expired and left them. Hope knew that was all well and good. But she did not plan on fading away like a distant memory. She had to evolve. She had to obtain omniscience. That was why she needed to take over. That was why she needed this damn gem ceremony. As Hope flew into the borders of grace, she began to feel better. Seeing the 7 castles stretched out in front of her was a pleasing sight. Each of the guardian castles were towering, with enough sprawling land to fit 2 more within them. They needed that wide space to effectively see Earth, which was reasonable. Hope would not dare change a thing about that. Well, maybe she would give them more land to see more of Earth, but that was something on which she had not decided. Then there was her castle. Well, what would soon be her castle. The castle of fate was taller than the rest, and large enough that the entire city of grace could fit inside it. Again, with room to spare. Of course, it had to be, since it also has the infamous Pied Piper, defender of fate and bringer of consequences, be they good or bad. The first floor of the castle belonged solely to him, with the rest being taken for the wielder of fate. Hope wanted it so badly she dreamed of it each night. The Pied Piper, Samuel, was waiting for Hope in the courtyard. Hope saw him and rolled her eyes, bypassing him by flying directly into the front balcony of the bedroom. The castle of fate backed up to ecstasy, and she could see it as she landed. From her place on the bedroom balcony, Hope could see her widespread golden pillars, the castle of wisdom. Ecstasy was where the history of heaven was kept and monitored closely. The holy library was in the great hall of that large golden house, and if any angel required advice or needed to recall a past event, it was all there, along with the assistance from the angels of wisdom themselves, oftentimes whether angels wanted it or not. Hope never did care for the angels of wisdom. Most of them were too smug and bossy for her liking, and they had been in their position far too long. Angels like that needed to be replaced now and again to keep them fresh with the times. Instead, they were stuck with these old bags of feathers who enjoyed kissing up to Genesis. Hope supposed Genesis was used to it. They all lived near each other, so it was expected that they would be close. However, Hope still did not care for it. In fact, when she became the true wielder, she planned to banish those angels of wisdom to hell where they belonged. "Hope, you have to quit doing that," Samuel said, annoyed with her continued defiance. He entered her room without even knocking. Hope despised when he did that. "Samuel, I don't need to know every breath every mortal took yesterday," she refused to apologize. Why should she? She hadn't done anything wrong. "Let's just skip the formalities and go to the observatory." Samuel rolled his eyes and stood in her way of the observatory staircase at the back of the room. He spread open large gray wings that hardened around his shoulders like diamonds hidden under soot. They were wings of fate, and Hope so desperately envied him for them. "We most certainly will not. You're not the wielder of fate yet, and it's my job to guard it until you are deemed worthy." Hope sighed and folded her arms. Samuel's dark eyes were better suited for a dark angel. She assumed, anyway. Truthfully, she hadn't ever encountered one face to face. All Hope knew was Samuel's rude disposition was a direct contrast to the sunny morals of heaven. Samuel continued to scowl at her. "I'm worried about you, Hope. That's part of my job too, you know." "I'm fine," Hope lied. "It's just taking longer to perfect my bond, that's all." "I understand. My predecessor was unsavory, to say the least, and I have heard he never shared a bond with fate." "Listen, you only have one predecessor because no one wants your job." Hope sat on the edge of the bed and snickered. "This is different. Literally every angel in heaven wants to be me right now." "Hope, don't exaggerate. It's unbecoming." She rolled her eyes and raised her hands to the ceiling. "Fine, Sammy, fine. What do you want me to do?" Samuel smiled and led the way to the observatory in spite of denying her access only moments ago. It was not typical for the Pied Piper to have such free access to the Hand of Fate, but this was a common exception. Samuel was the only angel qualified to guide Hope through this journey. As such, he got to strengthen his bond with it as well. The observatory was dark. Black walls with gold pinstripes that shimmered in some unseen light. There was a balcony with a heavy gold curtain closing it off. Another gold curtain blocked access to the only library in heaven that contained books of the past, present, and future of every creature in the three realms since the dawn of time. Hope ached to access that library, but it was forbidden. Just like the balcony, it was rumored the balcony of fate revealed the exact location of the Lord of Darkness, the devil himself, as mortals called him. Unfortunately, the curtains were sealed by fate, which meant Hope had yet to earn her rite of passage for those perks. It sucked, and Hope was not above making it known. "Sammy, can't you just use your great power and let me peek into the library? Just once?" Samuel laughed. "Hope, even I've never seen behind those curtains. That is the most privileged information in the three realms. Not even Genesis has access to it." Hope pouted but let it go. She would find a way inside, even if she had to break fate to get it. "Now then," Samuel continued, "let's see if you're any closer today." He encouraged her to spread her wings and use her power to activate the hand. For a few minutes, nothing happened. The massive white marble hand in the middle of the dark room just sat, cold and vacant. The wrist was affixed to the floor, and the hand was bent with the palm upward in a cupping formation, as if it was holding the most delicate crystal in its palm. Usually, anyway. Right now, it did nothing. Hope was getting frustrated and ready to give up when the hand finally started to flicker to life. The marble glowed a soft yellow, and an image appeared in the palm in a soft blue haze. Samuel saw the blue haze, but the image was not for him. "What do you see?" he asked, knowing she was not meant to say, but probably would anyway. The image started as one of Earth from a distance. It quickly moved and focused on more precise locations until it stopped on a small city. "I think it's going a little haywire," Hope said. She worried she had broken it. "What do you mean? What is it doing?" Hope hesitated as if waiting for the hand to tell him itself, but it just sat, forcing her to gaze upon some random city. "I think it's stuck." "What do you see?" "It's an earthly city. I've never seen it before. I don't know where it is." Samuel smiled. At last, something was happening. Perhaps this was the opening of her leap of faith. That certainly would make him feel better, and it would get the Angels of Wisdom off his back. Everyone was growing worried. He knew that and even empathized with them. Yet there was only so much he could do. This little breakthrough would buy Hope some time. The leap of faith had no time limit, so this could take Hope one day, or it could take her 1 year. Samuel had no way of knowing. He only knew Hope would continue to be impatient, but the rest of them could relax a little and let loose the reins. Only a little. "Hope," Samuel smiled proudly at her. "Fate is giving you an assignment. It's up to you to follow it and put it together. But you've finally begun your journey." Hope gasped and grinned wide. This was it. She was finally starting the bond. Now if she could just quickly get through this, unlimited power would be all hers. And with that, that is the end of Chapter 1. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you all enjoyed me reading this. And once again, if you're curious to read the book for yourself, the link for it will be in the description down below, as well as the link to the author's personal YouTube channel as well. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you all for the next episode of Let's Read. And in the meantime, take care, fellow readers, and I'll see you all soon. Have a great day.